Welcome everybody from online and welcome to my class. This is a food studies sponsored class. It's Fiat Lux, which means let in the light. And it's classes that professors don't have to teach and students take because it sounds interesting, but they're not really sure what they're getting into. And for sure, this class is one of them. And we are full of surprises for them. No less today is an amazing, great surprise. Dr. Pedro Rezic is coming to us from Argentina. I had the great pleasure to meet with him last month in upstate New York, where he talked to me about his newly released book called Mouth Gastronomy, and an even greater pleasure to share a dessert with Raquel Rabinovich, where we actually made a dessert with our mouth, which you will experience a little bit now. Another great, wonderful thing is that we're joined by Siddharth Ramakrishnan, who's coming to us from Seattle. He's an artist, neuroscientist. We've been collaborating on this project. That's the basis of this class, Hawk Zodiac, for 15 years now. And we're actually, all of us are foodies. I'm sure it's the same true in this class. But maybe, Siddharth, before I do a formal introduction for Pedro, you can just say a few words for the students and the audience.
Yeah, I met Victoria when I was a postdoc at UCLA in 2008. And she asked me what is the most fascinating thing about science. And I told her about the Hox genes that control the body plans of all of us. And the fact that we have a head and two hands and 2 feet, and elephants have a trunk or snakes have a long body, are all controlled by the same set of genes. And then from there, we ran with it, and it's now evolved into a project that talks about ask people to come as their Chinese zodiac animal to the dinner table. And we exchange food as genetic material and start talking, having these in-depth conversations about food engineering, about molecular genetics, genetic manipulation, climate change, and pretty much everything relevant to us as bodies and as animals. So I'm really
So
glad to be here.
thank you so much, Siddharth, for joining. I know you're in the middle of teaching and everything. Siddharth is a professor at Puget Sound, and he also leads a lab there. And we always have these dinners because it's so much fun. And we're now prepping for the Year of the Dragon, which is coming up, trying to figure out how we make a whole big deal about that. So dragons, lizards, pay attention. All right, so to not lose time, I will just briefly introduce Dr. Pedro Rezic, who's been involved in food design as a practitioner, social entrepreneur, and scholar for the past decades. His design includes several startups, and he's been at the MoMA store many times with his work. He's also had a lot of academic work that's rooted in the relationship between form and structure. So this is actually very interesting to design students as well, because he's thinking about technomorphology, and a lot of what we do with Hoxodia is about morphology and how we shift shapes and how everything moves in time. Most recently, he came up with this book. I'll just jump to that, otherwise it's a long bio that you can all read. Mouth Gastronomy. And we're doing a little bit of an experiment here that may work. And if it works, we can try it again. We're interested in performative talks. So how somebody like Pedro can come and not only explain the background of his project, but perform it for us and then engage us as well. So we do have some ingredients here. I can't point the camera. We have the ingredients here and we're ready to taste. And for the online audience, we sent you also ingredients so you can taste with us. But we consider you lurkers, so we're going to give most attention to the class because they're the most important right here. And you guys are lurkers in the sidelines, but at the end, everybody gets to say a few words if you like about your experience. Actually, Pedro's very interested to hear back from everybody what your experience is. I'll tell you from my own little experience with making chocolate dessert with my mouth during dinner, it changed my attitude completely. And then I tried this out with some friends for New Year's Eve. And we were laughing so hard that we couldn't swallow. So I don't know if you have that problem in general, but it's actually interesting if you have people around the table just kind of chewing and doing their mouth thing for a long time. It's wonderful, and it brings a lot of joy, and certainly brings up about how we eat and how mindful we are with our food. So with that, I'll just hand it to you, Pedro, and we'll disappear in the background, everybody. I'll take off your videos, and Pedro will lead us with the session.
Hi, everyone.
You have to say, so Pedro's from Argentina coming into us, and he's very interested to hear your name, your major, and why you're interested in food, but very quickly. So you're first, so you go.
I'm Aiden. I'm fourth year biology major, industry minor. I don't know, I've loved it my whole life, and I wanted to see how it was related to like developmental genes and also so yeah.
Hi, my name is Stamatis. I'm a first year in the Design Media Arts graduate program, and my interest in food, I had my past work experience working in the industry and kind of moving on into food chemistry a little bit with like some wine chemistry, enology. It's just like an obsession and passion of mine as well.
Hi, I'm Sama. I'm a second year molecular cell and developmental bio major. And the reason I took this class is because I'm from India and food is a very big part of our culture, and I wanted to learn it. I wanted to get a different perspective on it.
Hi, my name is Sophia, and I'm a first-year environmental science major. And I like cooking and I'm a first-year cognitive science major, and I just really like food. I'm Isabella. I'm a third-year physiological science major, Spanish minor, and I have a couple food intolerances, so I always like learning about like different foods and like finding other foods I can.
Hi everyone, my name is Kay. I'm a third-year business economics major, and I really love food, to eat and eat food, and I just want to learn more about food instead of just eating it.
Hi, my name is Nisma. I'm a first-year psychology major. I'm really interested in how food and culture are intertwined, and also just understanding why food makes us so happy. I'm really excited to be here.
Hi, I'm Melina. I'm that's my first year grad too. Basically, I'm just on the starting point of just planning out maybe doing a project about like our environment as sort of like how we can view it in like a different perspective and different form as a media about connecting our body to the outside environment. And also, I'm also it's enthusiastic, so like, yeah, I'm really interested in like, how food brings us joy.
I'm Alex, first year poli-sci major, and I took this class because I wanted to eat food and eat unique food that we might make.
Hi, my name is Ryan. I'm a first year computational biology major, and I'm interested in food because I want to learn how like culture and food intertwine, like some other people said. And I'm just interested in food in general because I really like eating.
How great is that? Right?
Beautiful, beautiful.
Oh, yes, I'm
What
totally
a nice
excited to teach
game.
this class.
Yes.
You have the variety, and you're gonna get some good feedback, and I'll let you go for it.
Okay, well, it's a pleasure to be here, there, somewhere. Thank you so much, Victoria, Mariam, and I'd also like to thank Matilde Lombardi, my partner and co-keeper, who has a lot to do with this project. And when Victoria invited me to join the class, we threw some ideas around. Like she said, this is a little experimental. I mean, it's easy to talk on video conferences. It's not that easy to connect with the people, and especially if there's not a back and forth, but we'll do our best. And there's a lot of new stuff that's going to be put on the table. So if anyone wants me to pause and explain something, Victoria, it's up to you when you want to do that. I can't see the people, so I guess you're my eyes. But let me outline briefly what the game plan is. It might vary a little bit, but basically I'm going to spend about 10, 15 minutes telling you from my own mouth how this project came to be, because a lot of it has to do with not just its function, but its meaning, its purpose. I'll do a quick overview. It's a lot of material for 15 minutes. And then I think we're going to have a 15-minute period of doing exercises, mouth gymnastics, water tasting. And then I'm going to do apple juice in the mouth. And then Victoria and Mariam are going to guide the people who are there live with their own recipes related to the Hawks Zodiac. And then I think we're going to wrap it up with an open dialogue. Does that make sense, Victoria?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. Okay. So the slides are not necessarily connected to what I'm saying. I don't want to walk you through a PowerPoint. I want to have some images that might just allude to things that I'm going to talk about. Some of the slides I'm going to have to go through quickly. Okay, this project was born about 10 years ago, really out of practical need, being that I had to bike to the University of Buenos Aires, where I work as a researcher, a design researcher, and also teach. And I just found that a 20-minute bike ride was fine, but I always had little time to eat. So I started kind of hamstering, putting food in my cheeks and slowly eating it until I discovered that I could actually create different foods in my mouth. And that's the whole point of mouth gastronomy. Technically, it can be defined as when cooking in the wider sense of the word, basically elaborating, taking raw materials and taking them to edible cultural products, if you may, could be done in the mouth, because with all things going on worldwide that I don't think we need to get into, but food has been notoriously, I'd like to say, overlooked by disciplines, by transdisciplines, even though there's food science, gastronomy, health and nutrition. Design has had very little to do with food, basically branding, packaging, not much else. So with all the problem food is now creating for us, much more than just hunger and malnutrition, we are dying from eating, from overeating, from eating bad things, and the environmental impact and I'd say the identity crisis many of us have, especially migrants and all the hybrid things going on in the world. It seems more important than ever to have a strong connection with something so essential, so basic, so satisfying and pleasure-giving and social connectivity. There's so many things. Sorry if some of my English words aren't coming to mind. But basically, I don't think there's been a time in the world where food has been more in crisis. And that's a huge paradigm shift from hunger and the United Nations giving out, dropping with helicopters, grains and whatnot. I mean, that's not it. So this project came out of a larger transdiscipline known as food design. I would not have done this project if I hadn't been involved in food design, which is basically not just the intersection between two huge things. I call them things to not call them fields or subjects, because I think they are ungraspable what is food? It's not a class, it's not a thing, it's everything in a way, it's life. And design, especially in the last 20 years, has become beyond the buzzword. Design has become the way we inhabit the world, basically. Everything is designed. In many intangible things, if not all intangible things, are also designed, from sometimes presentations, education, business plans. I mean, design is kind of a word you could put before probably everything, because it has to do with how you configure, how you approach, how you identify problems. And then, and only then, can we solve problems. But first, we really have to identify what are the actual problems. It's not hunger. It's not other things. It's has to do with our relationship with food and the food ecosystems. Sorry, I've kind of branched out, but I needed to give that intro in order to walk you through at least the main parts of this book. So this table of contents is broken down into 5 areas. We're going to just quickly, this is a mosquito, in case you can't see it. We're in summer here. I'll just go through the slides and make comments. So the first thing that comes up is that the mouth is not just a receptacle for food and other things, and it's not even just a processor and a taster. I mean, the basic functions of the mouth, technically speaking, is to make sure you put non-hostile ingredients into your mouth, be it poisonous or pinchy or other things that can harm you, even though there's many poisons that we cannot taste, but the mouth does its best to filter that out and then to break down the food so the rest of the digestive system can do its thing and we could actually nurture ourselves, because just putting food in the mouth does not guarantee any kind of nourishment. So we explored how many things, the culture of the mouth, which is not something that's really out there, even though, if you think about it, we communicate with the mouth, we breathe, even though mainly through the nose, we eat, we love, we express facial expressions. I mean, the mouth is just probably our most useful at least passageway between our inner and selves and outer life. So we explored mouth labs, the things we learn, the things that are intuitive, and we just had a great time exploring the mouth. This is a breakdown of specificities, I think I said it right, of food. You can read it when you get a chance. And here is some schematic drawings. Please don't take them to be perfectly technical. You're trying to be communicative. This is for a lay audience. So we started analyzing what happens in the mouth, but not really from an oral processing science point of view. That's there. There's books and literature on that. This is basically from design research, trying to understand what gives meaning to the practices in the mouth. The way we got to the recipes was not just trial and error, but there is a system, a methodology that I'm sharing here in the slide. And basically it has to do with looking at gastronomic actions, their equivalent mouth actions. Of course, not everything that you can do, you can't freeze in your mouth, but you can warm something up if it's lower temperature than your mouth temperature. And then what are the mouth areas involved with those mouth actions? So the nuts and bolts of mouth gastronomy has to do with using your mouth as a creative space in order to play, invent, discover, enjoy, and anything else that you discover, that you relate to in your mouth beyond the typical. Of course, if you're wine tasting, you'll pay more attention to certain parts of the mouth, but by and large, people just, bite, suck, and swallow, or bite, chew, and swallow, I should say. We're missing the opportunity to create with the mouth. Like I said at the beginning, as the mouth is used for communicating, for loving, for expressing, we can do a lot more food-wise than just receiving, tasting, chewing, and swallowing the food. So this is the mouth map that relates to, I believe there's 60 recipes in the book. They're broken down to savory. These are quick examples. I might stay on one of them when we actually do the tasting part. Sweets. This is not about health food. That's a term that I have a hard time with. It's about connecting with what you eat. Actually, at the beginning of the book, it talks about the 3 basic guidelines for mouth gastronomy, which is quality ingredients, small amounts, and connection with those ingredients. So putting a vanilla cookie is part of showing that it's not about being strict or disciplined or even militant, even though that's sometimes necessary. But the book, the proposal, wants to help accompany people in discovering the joy and surprises that you and you alone can do with your mouth, in your body, inhabiting your body, taking your body as part of the gastronomic experience. And that basically is a political statement, not against gastronomy, commercial gastronomy, high cuisine, or whatever you want to call it. It's a compliment that's saying we should empower ourselves with what we have at hand, including our hands and mouth, literally. There's a chapter about how how the hands are used in preparing and eating, but that's not part of today's conversation. So it is about empowering, it's about doing more with less, and it's about connection. So when we have this apple pie recipe that invites you to put a piece of vanilla cookie on your tongue and let it get moist, a bit of cinnamon bark, I believe it's called, in one cheek, a bite of an apple, and you let those macerate. And when you feel things are kind of blending, you take a sip of rum, but you make a swish in your mouth. So it's not about getting a shot of rum down your throat. It's about mixing these ingredients at different sequences, different rhythms. There's a part I lay out, which is the choreography of mouth gastronomy, which goes into detail. I'm just have to go through these very quickly. And a pretty obvious one, continuous tea. It suggests use a used tea bag, or if not, at least let it swell in water before you put it in your cheek. Put it in your cheek with or without the string. I mean, this is just, these are guidelines. So you could spend the morning with a tea bag in your cheek, and when you suck on it, you'll get flavor. And if you take a sip of warm water and do a swish or gargle, you will get more flavor. So long water, that's one of my favorites because it doesn't get any simpler. Take as much water into your mouth as you can and take as long as you can to swallow it. It could easily be 10, 15 minutes in your mouth. It's kind of a meditation. And as you create saliva, the liquid gets thicker, more viscous, and it does change flavor. So if you wait long enough, that water in your mouth, you're probably going to be like this. And the saliva that's expelled through the salivary glands will give you a liquid that you can then just very little, like, I don't even think it's called a sip. You just little drops go by. So that's the gist of it, the recipes. The book goes into, like I said, for lay people, what is the digestive system about? Here it's broken down as a flow diagram, looks at different parts of the mouth, the teeth, and just it. Some people would like to get into these details, others at least know they're there. And then we get into something that's really not out there. I've checked literature oftentimes. I don't know in English really if it would be called eating ergonomy. In Spanish, we termed it ergonomía alimentaria. And it looks at the different actions. Here it shows, the innate breastfeeding or baby bottle sucking that we're born with, to different forms of appropriating liquids, different types of bites depending on the dimension or the hardness of what we're biting, the solids, how we salivate, other things we do with our mouth, food metrics. Interesting to know how many square centimeters your tongue is. It's such an important part of enjoying and recognizing food. How many square centimeters do we have molars to grind food, to chew food? How much liquid can we actually take in? Same with solids. Of course, these are totally, I wouldn't say arbitrary, but they are relative metrics because every mouth is different, but at least we started exploring that. This looks at how the quantities we consume of different liquids and solids. And this is a visual study of the gastronomic mouth in action. And I believe that's where we end this part of the presentation. This is the latest series, Breaded Tongues. Hopefully we could talk about that if time permits.
That was great. So
I think I went too fast and
no, I think it's a good overview. And, I'm already a bit familiar with it, so I'm just curious what Siddharth has to say. By the way, before Siddharth, you say a word, I have to say that your very first and beginning of your introduction, it really resonates with both of us. I'm sure Siddharth agrees. One of the reasons we kept going with the project is because we felt this idea of food and health food and gluten and non-gluten that it's totally off the main point of how we have a relationship to our environment, to ecology, to other people around us, and how we share and also gratitude in the end. So thank you.
That was really fascinating. It's fascinating to me also because I don't think Victoria knows, but my PhD was on how snails eat and how the neurons controlling the snail brains cause them to chew food and get it. And a lot of the instinctual subconscious thing that you're talking about are pattern generators that once they start, when you're chewing, you don't actually think, okay, chew. You actually, and then depending on the hardness or the softness of the food, the neurons really like start controlling it. And swallowing is like a very intricate process that, again, you don't think, oh, I have to roll my tongue and swallow it, and it actually happens. And bringing the intentionality into this process is just really fascinating. So yeah, I'm really, really amazing. Yeah.
So now you're going to lead us to the next step, right?
yes. So let me take a breather because I thought I missed some basic points, but Siddharth, thanks for your feedback. I mean, the basics is that how can we be missing something so essential put all the value on the plate or the restaurant. You know, now the fashion runway is food. It's no longer used to be how you dress, what brands. Just food has overwhelmed us in so many ways. Foodies used to be a compliment. Now it's almost an insult because it leads to food pornography. We just consume food and we kind of extrapolate. Let's do Indian, let's do Mexican, let's do this. It's a huge conversation, but that's what this book is all about, opening up the conversation, and at the same time giving you elements, concrete elements. So next time you sit and sip a drink of water, sip a glass of water, you might do it mouthfulness with mouthfulness. And that's what I left out very quickly. I mean, what can you take away with mouth gastronomy besides what's implicit about personal practice, mindfulness, mouthfulness? You could share with other people. You could have events. Yeah, it's a provocation, really. Hopefully, the experiments we'll all do today together will give you a better feeling for it, but it does take time. It's not, you know, in 15 minutes, something so foreign to most of us as far as how we relate to food is a big step. So the idea now is to spend a few minutes doing some mouth exercises. I know I overstepped the time here, so I'm going to try something. Hopefully it'll work. And it has to do with just putting the focus. Victoria, you'll tell me if the mouth is visible.
Yes, I do. Yes, it is.
If it doesn't work, we'll just.
Yeah, it works. It looks really cool.
Okay. Okay. So I've laid out 6 or 7 different exercises. They have to do with discovering the mouth. If you'll want to do it at the same time, it could be fun. First thing is use your tongue inside your mouth to go over your teeth, the upper, the lower, the outer part, the inner part, the top part. Just use your tongue. You might be able to discover the frenulum on the upper and lower lip. And just get a sense of how your tongue connects with the teeth.
What's a frenulum?
The frenulum is what makes the upper and lower lips as well as the tongue. The tongue has a frenulum. I think it comes from the Latin break, freno, which avoids your lip from going too far out.
Yes.
It's a membrane that is attached. You'll discover it in one of the exercises that's coming up now. Another thing you can do with your tongue is work your tongue outside of your mouth. Try and touch your nose, your chin, and kind of, I don't know how you say it in English, relamer, when you eat something delicious like ice cream. You just use your tongue. And these movements you can do very slowly, very consciously, and at some point, just speed them up. You'll then realize how little we use those muscles, at least at that frequency. But that's, again, something to explore. Then we could expand and explode and implode our cheeks. Again, these could be slower, maintain it as long as you can, or faster. Then we can also roll our tongue. Those of you who either have a father or mother who can roll their tongue, if neither of your parents can roll their tongue, you will not be able to. That's a genetic fact. Then we can spread our lips from the help of the fingers, spread them out. And then, not everyone will want to do this. Hopefully you'll have clean hands, but run your fingers through as much of your mouth as possible, including sublingually, and you'll discover how soft and deep the part below your tongue is. You'll be able to feel and recognize the tongue's frenulum. It's a membrane right in the middle. And when you're done with all that, you can smell your finger, which smells like saliva, which we don't often get to smell because it's, I don't know the mechanics of it, but I guess we're just so used to it. But this also has to do with the saliva leaving your body and smelling it again, which is, I'm gonna show you a quick example of that in just a minute. So then, of course, open your mouth as wide as you can. And the list is long, but I mean, not that long, but I just very quickly went through these ideas, kind of as a warm-up. It's a good moment to show you something. Some people find it a little, I wouldn't say, I don't know how you say in English, scatological, but I want to show you something which is very relevant here. And it's, we constantly swallow not just saliva, but some mucus matter, however that's called. Now, we don't even think about it. It's just automatic. Now, what if I'm going to be an example. I'm not going to be too visual, but I put saliva. If you don't want to look, don't look. But I put saliva in this spoon, and now I'm going to take it back in. Most people will say gross, probably won't want to do it. I often do it in a glass so you could actually see it. It's strange. The strangeness has to do with something that's part of the inside of your body, leaving your body and then taking it back in. When you swallow, especially if you have a cold, you're constantly swallowing things that you would never want to look at and let alone take out of your mouth and put back in. That's just a small example of smelling your saliva on your hands. We shouldn't be disgusted by your own body, but these experiments also explain why. The saliva changes temperature. When it gets out of my body, it cools down. So when I put it back in, I notice it's foreign matter. That's just a small detail.
So
I think
that
yeah.
had a comment for you about,
Okay.
it's in the chat. I don't know,
Uh-huh.
if you just want to say it rather than me reading it.
Yeah, the when you look at the brain, and there's a concept called the homunculus, which is the representation of the body in the brain, and the amount of brain real estate that's devoted to the tongue and the lips and the mouth is as big as your fingers.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
oh, that's interesting. Wow. We're learning a lot today.
I'd love to know more about that, maybe at the end, but good. Thank you.
Thank you, Sid.
So now it's time for the participants to do some mouth gastronomy. The first exercise is kind of a warm up, and it's water tasting. I guess you have the jugs there with the different types of water. The whole point this is water tasting, not of brands of mineral water, to distinguish between Perrier and Vicencio. It's about really coming into contact with something so vital. I'd even say more so than food is water, even though when we talk about food in this context, it includes liquids. But very few people have probably taken the time to really recognize the waters they drink. And we're talking about here tap water, filtered water. Yeah.
Quick question. So we have, as you told us, a few types of water. We got spring, alkaline, distilled, purified water. And the
Mhm.
tubs, how do we
Right.
do this so it doesn't take too much time and to get the
Yeah, I guess if you just give everyone a small, a small glass, a sip or two maximum of the first water, let them put it in their mouth, pretend it's wine and you're paying a lot of money for this tasting, enjoy it, swish it, feel it, and then do the second round and so on.
We're doing the distilled water first. I'll show
I'm
you.
tempted, Victoria, if you take over and I'm tempted to do something I didn't want to do simultaneously, but we're not going to have time. I'd like to do the apple juice while you distribute and taste the water.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Okay,
Yep.
so the water tasting is not many people have tried distilled water. Actually, rainwater would be considered distilled water. Yet, if it wasn't for the fact that when it comes down, it picks up particles, generally not very nice particles, but it is interesting to recognize that water has taste and smell, and you can recognize that when you try distilled water that has no taste, no smell at all. So it might be a little too much, but I'd rather do it than not. And what I'm going to do while you're all tasting the waters is I have this napkin here, I have this apple, and I'm going to make apple juice basically by biting the apple, breaking it down without really eating it, and then I'm going to put the remains in the napkin, and then I'm going to squeeze the napkin, and you'll see the amount of juice that comes out. I generally eat the apple whole, not that I don't leave the core for practical and for sentimental reasons, I'd say. So I'll at least start with half the apple.
So an apple a day makes the doctor go away kind of thing?
It brings a lot of nice things.
So see if you can taste the difference between the distilled, what are you serving now? Purified. And then we'll do spring. Maybe it's all the same thing, but different bottle.
So I'm gonna just do this kind of halfway.
Okay.
So if you don't want to look, close your eyes, but this is the apple material, and so this is more than homemade apple juice, and what's left over really, let me get the core here, is if I squeeze this carefully. So this is the remains of the apple with, we can put back the, so this is the squeezed apple. I'm not sure how you would call it, but I could actually put this in my mouth and keep sucking juice out of it. So, salud.
Hey, Pedro,
Cheers.
can you address a little bit the idea of when something comes out of our mouth, there's a kind of a queasiness, a disgust, right? But you must have thought about that because I'm sure you get that kind of response all the
Of
time.
course, of course. In fact, we talked about it with my partner over lunch today. I mean, it has to do with the otherness. When it's the way also we relate to other people. When well, like I said before, I mean, when things are very intimate, in that long list of the especificidad of food, you know, it's a very intimate process to put something in your mouth. And it's not gasoline as Gatorade wants us to think, you know, it becomes our cells. Of course, the calories give us energy, but a lot of the food is also, it becomes our cells. Victoria, I'm so sorry. I think I went off track. They were talking to me, and you asked me to elaborate on what happens when we take things out of the mouth and put them back in.
Just the idea, why are people really disgusted when something's like even smelling your
Right. Well, I think that has to do with again, how do you say that in English? Quisquilloso. In this perfect world where the bodies are perfect, the image is perfect, everything is perfect. The concept of ugly fruit, for example, that many markets started to sell at a discount because if it had a little stain, people would be. It has to do with food porn. And of course, pornography, bodily pornography, and all other types of pornography understood as objectifying things, making them objects. So food becomes this object of desire, the perfect hamburger with the cheese that melts. Of course, that's not what you're going to get served, but we become obsessed with the perfection of things, and we misunderstood perfection for pristineness might be the word. So, if something it's a little hard, a little darker, we don't want it, and we just want the perfect things. And that's why we have aversion to disgusting things, smells. We don't want to smell. I understand in a crowded subway car, if you've been sweating all day, it could be strong and a lot of people in there, but we just have, we take baths. It's well documented now, we shouldn't use soap the way we use it. It's just, we don't want to smell, not even ourselves, let alone others. We don't want to see things that are not shiny and Photoshop perfect. But that's this culture, this consumist, unsatisfied culture has become obsessed with that idea. It's not even of beauty, it's of what's acceptable. So, you bit something and no one else would want to bite that. It's a big deal.
I think it must have been heightened by the pandemic, no?
Absolutely. Heightened and also used as an excuse.
Mm.
Because it has to do with the culture of everyone being alone, everyone being perfect, self-serving, your own goals. The whole idea of community is based on smelling each other, supporting each other, sharing. Well, I mean, we don't have to get too mushy, but the pandemic was a great excuse because of keeping even more distance. Because in fact, it's misunderstood. A lot of we inoculate ourselves by being exposed to bacteria and create our own antibodies. So if we're too clean, too aseptic, we're actually much more vulnerable.
So we're now moving into giving the class ingredients that are based on their animal signs. We have a lot of roosters in the room and horses, and it's really an interesting bunch, also disciplinary. And I guess, do you have an idea what's the best way to lead both the students here and the audience online, if I give you maybe one or two ingredients at a time, or what do you think is the best way?
I think that we have a half hour.
Yeah.
I think the best way at this point is for each person to take the ingredients. I don't know if you've already assigned them to them
We're
according
almost
to the
there.
sign. Right.
Mhm.
And let them just invent their recipes with it. Whatever you have in front of you, try and devise a way to have your mouth be this creative lab. You're not putting food in your mouth, you're putting raw materials that then you transform into your dish, into your food.
Okay, so given the,
Cheap. Yeah.
a lot of them are taking some dark chocolate on the one side and then something else, tangerine on the other side. For instance, let's use that as an example.
Okay.
If you
So-
could lead the group, that's a pretty big group that has tangerine and
Okay. Okay. Well, do they have the whole tangerine
no,
it-
yeah,
unpeeled?
they do. It's sitting in front of them unpeeled.
Okay, so what I would do is that first I take a little bit of a tangerine peel and squeeze it so the oil squirts out. Some people know how to do that with a lighter and flame comes out.
Hmm.
I would use the peel on the tongue, on the lips mainly. It could be a little bitter also, so you get the essential oil of the tangerine. Approach the tangerine in a very discovery mode, let's put it. So you don't just peel it and stick a segment in your mouth. Play with it, turn it, you can even turn the skin inside out, and then put a how do you say, a gajo, a segment in your mouth, and see if with your tongue, or you might need your teeth, you break it open and very gently kind of squish the pulp against your tongue, pushing against the roof of your mouth. Just find a way with just a little bit of tangerine to discover it instead of just eating a piece of tangerine.
And what about the piece of chocolate that?
Yes, but once you have that going, I mean, first get to know the tangerine.
Okay.
Once you have that going, I'd suggest put a piece, what do you call that? That un gajo,
Yeah.
a
And the other
segment,
side.
yeah, in
On
one
the-
cheek, and just let it be, and then put a very small amount of the dark chocolate sublingually. And it's going to take at least 30 seconds, a minute, for that piece of chocolate to start melting. You could speed it up by pressing down on it or moving your tongue. As you feel that chocolate melting, apply pressure to the cheek, kind of sucking in. You should be able to break the membrane of that tangerine slice. And very gently, as the chocolate melts, swirl it with the tangerine juice and pulp. The whole idea is to keep it in mouth as long as possible. Different intensities will appear at different times. You might suddenly get a chunk of chocolate that didn't melt all the way. Try to never bite chocolate. Always you can put very little pieces on top of your tongue, in your cheek, below your tongue, anywhere in your mouth, and it'll melt and it'll talk to you. It's a symphony, especially good chocolate, good dark chocolate, because it has its different stages. It's not the same when you have a little bit of chocolate than when your mouth starts to get saturated. Even with a small piece, it'll saturate. So then you're kind of playing counterpoints between the acidity of the tangerine and the sweetness of the chocolate. That's a great combo.
Okay, so we have one person who has olive and walnut. Olive and walnut. What do you think about that mix? What was your sign? He's a pig. He's a pig like me. So what are you recommending for olive and walnut as a chef, as a mouth gastronomy chef?
Well, the ingredients are there. So what we can do is play with the intensity, the sequence, and the rhythm. Meaning, if you bite into the walnut or the olive, you'll get an explosion of flavor. Whereas if you suck on it and the olive, you might have to kind of break the skin so more flavor comes out. So you can control the intensity of the flavor. You can control if you're using one at a time or together. For example, if you put the walnut in your cheek and leave it alone, it's not going to really influence the olive, and vice versa. So you could identify one flavor, then the other, and then you start mixing in the different proportions. And then you could have rhythms, meaning a little bit of walnut, then a little bit of olive, then both mixed together, then again a little bit of walnut. As you practice, if you just have one walnut, you'll probably run out fast. But those are the three variables in this case that you can control: the intensity, the mix, the proportions, and the sequence. Because it's not, I did it once and it's over. They'll stay in your mouth as long as you want them to stay in your mouth. So you could do the sequencing that you want. And that, I think that for a beginners into mouth gastronomy, those are enough key points. Recognize the ingredient, which means if it comes with skin, like a banana or a tangerine, get to know it, just get intimate and smell it, maybe put some of it in your lips, and then when you want that, the more complex recipes call for that, you might put salt in one end of your lips, sugar or pepper on the other, if you can tolerate it. And as you're chewing the other ingredients in your mouth, suddenly your tongue brings in a little salt or a little sugar. So that's kind of the repertoire you have on hand. Sometimes we'll introduce an ice cube, for example. So some of the was told can't do it for the drinking law in California, and I'm not sure what the age is, but we had some aperitivos in mind where you would put an ice cube, swirl it around your mouth, it gets cold, and then you take a shot of something and you don't swallow it again, you swish it around with the ice cube, and then you might have a little orange peel tucked away in your cheek, and then you take a little bite and it informs that mixture. All those things are going on.
So we have a question, one from the student and one from the audience. Let me just get rid of my background so you can see. Speak.
How do you
Loud enough.
decide which foods go to which Chinese animal? How is that like?
Oh, okay, that was a question for us. So Mariam, you can answer it while we.
Hello, everybody. So for this class, we decided to go simple for the on-site participants. We kind of integrated a Hawk Zodiac recommended ingredients and based on math gastronomy experience. But for the online participants, I actually picked the recipes based on their animal sign, and I sent them over and asked them to collect the recommended ingredients and experience it while we are doing it here. So for this class, we integrated Hawk Zodiac recommended ingredients with math gastronomy. Did I answer your question?
Kind of like why chocolate? Like specifically.
So because if you go to our website, you are a horse. If you go to our website to hawkzodiac.com, dark chocolate is one of the recommended ingredients for the horse. And I looked at math gastronomy book, and it was a recipe inside this book that had dried banana and dark chocolate. So I decided to pick that recipe and just sign it to you as a horse.
And I will just add to that, both for the online audience and for our dear horse here. Every recipe or ingredients that Siddharth and I put together for our project was based on the ruling organ of the particular animal. And that was based on Chinese medicine, and then from Siddharth's heritage, Ayurveda. And then we actually looked for the ruling organ of the horse is the heart. So we looked at what is good for the heart, and obviously a lot of it is antioxidants, and chocolate landed in one of the recipes.
I had thought, I couldn't hear the person very well, but I thought she actually asked, how do you know which side of the mouth to use?
No, she didn't ask that, but that's a good question.
That's a question I've been struggling with, and maybe Siddharth, I'm sure he knows a lot more about this than I do, being a neuroscientist. Our mouth, our bodies are not symmetrical, and different things happen in different sides of the mouth. I'm not sure. I don't know the science at all. Taste buds are symmetrical, basically, even though they're not equal along the full tongue. But I just know some people and some cultures, for example, like the cocoa leaves that are often chewed in the Andes are chewed in the left side of the mouth. I don't know if that's just a custom, it could be arbitrary, or if something happens on the left side, or you need the right side free for other things. But that's definitely an interesting thing to get to know.
Another question from Arthur, who's in the online audience. How is your work informed by learning how other animals eat, nibble, or store foods? Some can eat things we can't, so it must break nutrients down differently. Is your work informed about that? Have you looked
Well,
at
my life is informed as an animal lover. I've spent hours observing and admiring how my dog appropriates things, how the tongue actually works backwards to sip liquids. I wouldn't be able to say my work is informed. I think it's inspired by the creativity shown, especially by dogs. At least my dog, we make our own food for the dog. But I mean, just to see animals, the sounds. We were actually going to record our dog eating. It makes a lot of noise for this performance, but it was overwhelming. So that's my best answer, Arthur. I'd like it to be informed at some point, but we haven't gotten there.
You can tell everybody what your sign is.
Me?
Yes,
Yes, I'm the ox.
there you go. So
61.
you're gonna make some beef stew for us.
Well, the beef jerky.
Beef
The beef
jerky.
jerky in the United States is already moistened. The one we have in Argentina, being a meat producer, is sun-dried and salted. It's very different. It's tough. You have to really, you have to leave it in your mouth a while in order to.
So
to be
one of
able-
the things that in the final part of our class that's really important to Dr. Rasek is to get feedback from you. Feedback and questions, but particularly with a new experience of thinking about your mouth and food and taste and everything that was discussed. And I hope that at least a few of you will be brave enough to say something. Come here so the audience can see.
So I don't have a question, but I have a feeling, and I'm still feeling it in my mouth. So I'm a horse, and I tried dark chocolate, and this chocolate that I tried was 100%, so it was pure. And the interesting thing that I'm still feeling it is the aftertaste of this chocolate, and I still can feel the bitterness of the dark chocolate. And the interesting point is that bitter is the taste for the horse based on the Hot Zodiac project. And so I no longer feel the banana. I'm just 100% feeling the bitterness and the the feeling of like the banana, the chocolate that is oily and like it's a mixture of like different feelings, but everything is just related to the chocolate. So I just wanted to share this video. Yeah, it was, yeah. So it was like 90%, 10% of the, and it was one of the dessert recipes of your book. It was banana, dried banana, dehydrated banana, and dark chocolate.
Okay, right, right. I didn't specify 90%, but to each his own or her own,
Yeah.
definitely.
So I think we have another question. So
Well, I just have another note.
Oh.
I think yeah, so I had the olive and the walnut, or like we just have like a bunch of various nuts. But it's interesting. Only just now, after trying it a few times, I found the kind of bridge in the like extrapolated palette of flavor as far as this kind of earthiness between the two. Like both are kind of earthy in their own respects. You know, you wouldn't say that obviously a nut tastes like an olive, but they kind of have these unique characteristics that I don't know, in my brain, yeah, earthiness felt like the kind of tie over. I think the other interesting thing is that like, you know, saliva is more than just water. There's like digestive enzymes that are present in your saliva. So when you hold something in your mouth, it's kind of the cooking process, or, you know, the breaking down process already begins, and kind of how that intrinsically changes the characteristic of something as opposed to if you just ate it more immediately. Yeah.
Right.
Tell everybody your sign.
Oh, I'm a pig.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Tell everybody your sign.
Hi, I'm
Hi.
Rowena. My sign is dragon, so I had like banana. Oh yeah, dragon person. Yeah, so I had banana, apple, and walnut. Like cause I didn't know like which one to take first, so I took walnut first, and then I take a little bit like equal amount of apple. But I feel like the walnut and apple sort of have like totally different characteristic in your mouth. One is more like earthy and the crumbs just left in your mouth, and one is more like refreshing. But also I feel like the walnut is kind of like the chocolate. It just keep in my mouth. Like even I took the same amount of like apple and then banana. I just feel like the refreshingness and that sweetness of the fruit is not that long lasting in your
Right.
mouth. Yeah.
Sure. Well, the walnut, you know, has oil. So depending on how you chewed it, if you left it long enough, that one of the recipes makes peanut butter, and
Oh.
or anyone who's tried to make peanut butter with their blender, you know, it really has to get to high speed in order for the oils to be expelled. So that it makes sense, you know, that stays longer.
The only
Thank
That's
you.
great you're discovering these things, and you're taking
Great,
notes.
we have a dragon in the house. Okay, so Erica has a question. Do you want to turn your video on, Erica?
Um, unfortunately, no, but I do have a observation, I should say, and I think just because everyone has kind of talked a little bit about walnuts, I usually when I think about walnuts, so sorry, hold on one second. My back is you can't really see me. So yeah. Hello. So usually when I eat walnuts, I kind of take it in as something that's bitter. And whenever we kind of have our walnuts are kind of added to dishes, it's kind of seen as a bitter element. But when I actually was eating it, I realized it was not bitter. It was more of this buttery, creamy kind of nut, and just kind of understanding that I also tried an olive as well, and that changed the flavor of the olive too, because I usually when I think of olives, they're very briny and acidic, and it turned it again to very buttery and very kind of rich. So it changed the way that I think about how food is added to dishes, because it's the way that we experience it in our mouth is very different from the way that we have when you eat it very quickly. So just kind of an observation when I was eating both of those. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yes, and even if you take a given dish that's already been designed for you, you know, some people put a little bit of everything, say if you're eating with forks, some people will just eat one thing, each bite will contain just one ingredient. So that's a diversity. Sometimes it could be overwhelming. I mean, I think people go to get ice creams, and ice creams themselves it's hard to get just one flavor, a pure flavor. It'll be, you know, this with this and this. Thank Ben and Jerry's for doing that. And then if you go to an ice cream store, you'll probably ask for 2 or 3 different flavors, which will probably have 2 or 3 different ingredients in each one. So again, it's just this over saturation of flavors, of textures, and as mouth gastronomy proposes, do more with less. Your explanation, Eric, of the discovering the walnut is to the point.
So I just wanted to add something talking about walnuts. So I'm Iranian, and in Persian cuisine, walnut has a very special place in like almost everything. And so walnut and cheese is our favorite breakfast. And we are taught that if you want to have cheese, you must have walnut with your cheese because you will go crazy. I'm not sure about the scientific facts, but our parents told us that there is some components in the cheese that if you don't take a walnut with it, it will kind of ruin your brain, and you will no longer learn like lessons in the school. So I just wanted to add this, and if any scientist here knows about the scientific facts of adding walnut to cheese, I would love to hear that.
And say your sign.
I'm a horse, and we have a similar thing in Egyptian culture. Like my grandparents always eat olives with cheese, and like I never see them eat them separately. So maybe there's another superstition there. But I had the dark chocolate, and similar to Miriam, I couldn't taste the banana anymore, and it like completely overpowered the experience. And at first, I didn't like having them on each side. Like I wanted to put it on my tongue so I could really feel it. But I realized that I had the experience for way longer having it on the sides of my mouth than just on my tongue. And like I still taste it, and that was, I don't know how long ago that was, but I think it changed the way that I'm gonna eat chocolate. Because the experience is like, it's more of a long-term experience, not just the initial sensation of eating the chocolate.
100%.
Totally.
Thank you. One more.
I think we just got used to biting and rushing, you know, because food used to be hostile. It used to be raw. It used to be even dangerous. So we got, you know, we didn't go for sensitivity. We went for just, how do you say that? Just, you know, devouring instead of enjoying. I think that's biologically ingrained in us. So the absurdity of biting chocolate, you know, it's all about putting a little piece and letting it melt. I think we're running out of time, but it reminded me of such a ridiculous anecdote I once heard in the first year in design. An engineer was hired how to sell more toothpaste. And he said, well, just make the diameter of the opening bigger. So when you know, the commercials show that you put toothpaste along all the head of the toothbrush. That's a ridiculous amount of toothpaste. It's actually bad for you. But by making the diameter bigger, they increase sales 20%. You know, the idea of just the overkill. This bar of chocolate, of course, if you bite and swallow it, it'll be gone in 10 minutes. Whereas if you just, you know, we can, not only is it better for us and everyone to do more with less, but it's just, you relate to things in a much more careful manner, so you enjoy that chocolate much more. If it's more, you know, it's sacred, you have a little bit of chocolate, you're gonna savor it, you're gonna really take care of it, than if you know, this huge 300 grams and while you're watching whatever.
It's absolutely true, because you actually gave us the chocolate when we were together, and I completely changed the way I eat chocolate, and I eat much, much less of it. So when somebody hands me, I take a little piece and I start doing the thing, and I'm just enjoying it so much more. So thank you so much. I also loved the few comments that we got that were so much about culture. And this is very much what we're trying to do, is introduce animals and cultures and ecologies and the complexity of everything. And Siddharth just had a comment himself. So instead of reading it, Siddharth, maybe you can say something, and then Pedro, you can have the last word.
No, I'm wondering about what Mariam commented and the other student commented on the combo of the cheese and walnut or cheese and olives. And I'm wondering whether it's got something to do with individual cultural microbiota. So depending on where you're growing and your traditional cuisine is, you have a certain gut microbiome associated with it, and maybe different combos of flavors or different combos of food will actually help to kind of improve your digestion of those, because those bacteria are going to be like, ooh, this food is here, so I'm going to eat it up. And so maybe it's got to do with that cultural thing, has some scientific basis, but I don't know if people have investigated that.
I think you're onto something, Siddharth. Another research project. Health food studies, like we have an idea, something for research. But we're at the end of our time. And all I have to say is that what's wonderful here is that we mixed Hug Zodiac with your mouth gastronomy. And we're super excited about it, because we're very much throughout the dinners, we always tell people just a little bit, just taste. And you're actually giving it a whole science of how you do it and why you do it. So we're pulling you in without you even knowing it into the project. Do you want to have a few last words before we take off?
Yeah, I mean, first, just so happy and grateful of the trust, you know, for you guys inviting me here, and the students just diving into this. It's wonderful to share this. I think if I have to mention something I'd suggest to walk away with, it is how easy it has been to overlook something. I mean, gastronomy is this monster that also depends what kind of gastronomy, but commercial gastronomy, you know, now with celebrity chefs and molecular gastronomy, and it's just, it blew up. And how noticeable that something, you know, food and everything is out there, but the mouth is not on the map. It's not on the radar. Unless you have a problem or we're going to go this. Right. I mean, our bodies, it's kind of recuperate control of our bodies, and our bodies can do so much more. They're not just passive receptacles. And this is just one example, a pretty obvious and visible example. We've been trained to be good receptors, not co-creators.
Mm-hmm. That's
And
a beautiful last.
as this happens in gastronomy, it happens in many other parts of life. So
we love it. So from this side, you're getting a lot of nice comments online, but this group is going to give you a big applause.
I wish I was there with you all.
One day it's going to happen.
One day. Or come to Argentina. We have a neighborhood called The Mouth. And the most famous soccer team in Argentina is called Boca.
Oh, right. Of course. Of course.
So
Thank you so much.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Siddharth, for joining. Thank you.